going on, Zash here, coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Are you in a good mood? Because I am, my friends. Today's going to be a long video. Hopefully you're in a good enough mood to tolerate this guy talking to you for about an hour, because we're going to cover the most ambitious list that we've ever tackled here on the channel of all time. It's going to be the top 100 champions overall in Raid Shadow Legends. I'm sure I'm going to snub somebody. I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody. I'm going to go faction by faction. I counted it up. I counted 128 champions who I thought were worthy of being a top 100 champion. It's kind of like how I say that's a top 5 champion, about like 10 champions, but I did whittle it down, so there's 28 snubs in my opinion that could be on this list. So grab your favorite beverage, your snack, whatever you're into, and enjoy the show, guys. By the way, speaking of speaking of nothing, apropos of absolutely nothing, check out this video. After you watch this video, if you still have time left, if you're not asleep yet
or dead,
check out Change Your Life One Tiny Step at a Time on Kyrgyzstan in a Nutshell channel. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels out there, guys. And Change Your Life One Tiny Step at a Time is really the best piece of practical advice that I've seen in a video format of how to make positive changes in your life. So if you could use a little pick-me-up, a little motivation, go ahead and check that video out, guys. Simple but very, very true advice. All right, guys, on to the point of the video. Let's start with, where else? The Bannerlords, guys. So we're going to start out with Cetalia, one of my most wanted. I shouldn't say most wanted, but I want her.
Oh. Thought we had something special.
I want her, but not most wanted. Cetalia is a great champion. Very fast, very good base stats. HP burn on the A1. On the A2, we get a 2-turn cleanse and a heal. Heals all other allies on top of the initial target. And then we have removing all buffs on a 3-turn cooldown. Decreased turn meter and fill turn meter as well. This Aggress is an insane ability, man. It's one of the better abilities out there in the game. People sleep on Cetalia. Very, very good champion. Again, like fat, 108 speed too on her. Number 2 is going to be Raglan. So Raglan, I mean, she has to be on the list because she got the miracle ability. It's a 2-turn revival with a full turn meter. That's nasty. That's on a 2-turn cooldown. That's nasty. She has the cleanse on a 4-turn. Man, I wish this was on a 3-turn cooldown, but it's still an amazing champion overall. She also has defense in all battles by 33%, one of the best defense all battle auras out there in the game. Next up is going to be Septimus. Septimus was he's kind of in the 80s or 90s now. His stock has fallen a little bit, but I still think this dude is a top 100 champion in the game just because of this Holy Sword ability based on enemy max HP. Obviously, with the advent of level 21 to 25 dungeons and the Doom Tower bosses and stuff like that, the enemy max HP is somewhat mitigated to 10% of their total max HP on the bosses. But still, if you're looking for a quick Spider 20 killer, like one-shot Spider 20, look no further than Septimus. And he can still help you out, even though 10% is not, 100% of damage. 10% is still a lot of damage, usually 200, 300k on some of these bosses, depending on the difficulty. So I still think he's one of the better champions out there, and I'm including him in this list for that reason. All right, next up is going to be Hillier. Hillier also made the list. This guy, I was a little underwhelmed with Hillier. When I built him. I was expecting great things because his shield is a little bit underwhelming because the damage is so low on the Solar Blessing. It's not like Miscreated Monster's shield. Miscreated Monster actually has a better shield than Hillier. However, he does have a lot of defense, and an AoE shield that's still really good in its own right on a 3-turn cooldown is fantastic. He also has his Harsh Light ability, which I love. 3-turn cooldown, transfer all debuffs from all allies to a target enemy, then attacks that enemy with a default skill, converts his champion's resistance into additional accuracy when using this skill. That gives you the luxury of just building him with very, very high resistance, kind of the opposite of Mithrala Lifebane we'll be talking about later on in the channel. So I think that overall, I still really, really enjoy this champion. Whenever an ally that has 2 or more debuffs is attacked, this champion will absorb 30% of the damage inflicted on that ally. Nice passive as well. So Hillier, excuse me, does make the list. In terms of rares from the Bannerlords that make our top 100 list, we have Archmage Helmet. This guy is a monster, man. He hits hard for a support champion, certainly. Has turn meter fill on the A1 if it's critical, 20%, not bad. On the A2, an AoE stun on a 3-turn cooldown, 75% stun after attacking. If they don't get the stun, you get 20% turn meter. This is a really, really good ability time slip. And as I mentioned, guys, that attack, that the initial attack and then the rest of the attack, it does a decent amount of damage as well. He also has increased speed, increased crit rate, increased crit damage on a 3-turn cooldown, and he's immune to turn meter decreasing effects. Archmage Helmet is one of the best Doom Tower Secret Room champions you can get, and he's the first champion that you get from Doom Tower Secret Rooms in the normal difficulty. What a great champion to start things off. Unfortunately, it does fall off a little bit after that. You guys know my gripes about Doom Tower, specifically Doom Tower hard champions. There's only a couple good ones, the rest are kind of trash. Archmage Helmet, that's definitely not the case with him. All right, there's actually a few epics that make our top 100 from the Banner Lords. The next one is going to be Stag Knight. He's fast, he's tanky, he's a debuffer with decreased defense and decreased attack on the same ability, and decreased speed on his A1 as well at a very dependable land rate. Each hit has a 50% independent chance of landing that decreased speed. Big version on a boss for 2 turns. Sign me up. This guy's kit is simple, but so damn effective. I love Stag Knight. He's a really, really good champion.
Do you know how creepy that sounds?
Ursula the Mourner also makes the list. She's kind of a new addition. Is she really new anymore? It's probably like a year old now. Time flies by, man. Has decreased target turn meter on the A1. We have a decreased attack and an increased attack on a 3-turn cooldown. This is also a very underrated and great ability in Waves of Grief. And then we have a fantastic revival ability on a 5-turn cooldown. We get 75 HP, 75% HP, and 50% turn meter, increased defense, and strengthen on all allies. You can also just use this ability, kind of like Arbiter's revival ability, where you can use it even if you're not reviving anybody, just to buff your team with increased defense and strengthen. Tremendous champion overall. Speed in Doom Tower battles by 24% is not bad as well, as a Doom Tower support champion. All right, next up is going to be moving over to the High Elves, guys. I put Elenaril on my list of top 100 champions, and I feel strongly about this one. She's the new Queen of Poison Combust, right? She places poisons, first of all. Places a poison debuff, places a second poison if the attack is critical on a 3-turn cooldown on the Smolder ability. This is on an AoE as well. And then on the A3, keeping it simple here. Deals damage from all poison debuffs on all enemies instantly. That's it. There's no damage mitigation like Xavia's kit, so I put her on the list over Xavia, even though I really want Xavia. Xavia? Tomato, right? I really want her, but Elenaril is fantastic. A lot of people slept on Elenaril for a really long time, and now her and Calvalax especially, they are like the dynamic duo in terms of speed runs in this game. I wish I had Calvalax. So really, really good champion in my opinion. Next up is going to be none other than Lisandra. Lisandra is the queen of speed. Speed in all battles by 24% on the aura. She's got the energize ability. This ability is sick, man. We get increased speed, and then we got turn meter increase, turn meter decrease by 30%. And then exhaustion fully depletes target's turn meter. Straight up on a 3-turn cooldown. Yeah, she's amazing. Speed in all battles by 24% on the aura as well. Great champion. Next up is going to be Tatura Rhymehide. So Tatura Rhymehide was a fusion or fragment summon, I forget which one. Fragment summon, I want to say. I think. Fusion? Fusion. Either way, Tatura Rhymehide is a tremendous champion, guys. Really good base stats. 20k, 14k on the defense, 102 on the speed. We have decreased accuracy. Great for bosses. 100% land rate damage based on defense on the A1. On the A2, we got block buffs and increased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. Lasts for 2 turns. That's it's a big money ability. And then on the A3, it gets even better. On a 4-turn cooldown, we have a shield and we have perfect veil on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Fantastic. When attacked, reflects 30% of the damage the champion receives back on the attacker. Also has a 30% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the attacker for 1 turn. Man, I'm rereading Tatura Rhymehide's kit for the first time in, since the fusion or whatever, or since the guide that I did on the champion. And man, this dog.
Come on.
Dog.
What the dog doing?
Not the dog. I'm sorry. Don't get mad at me. What is? I'm gonna look it up. Never ending story. Falcor. But it's not the dog. It's not a dog. What is it?
Come on, man.
Okay. Cut. Back to reality here, guys. Falcor. Looks kind of like a Falcor vibe going on here. What is that animal? The first time I asked you guys this question about what that animal was in Neverending Story, so many people in the comments were irate at me for calling it a flying dog or something. But anyway, it gives me that kind of vibe on Tatura Rhyme Hide. All right, next up, enough about Tatura and about Falcor. Jeez, Ash. Ethos! You know, Ethos is a beast nuker. What else is there to say? He's got the weaken. They give him a little buff as well. So he has a big version of weaken now on 2 turns, on a 3-turn cooldown with a 3-time hitter. And then he has Extinguished Life is a very appropriate name for this ability. He's just one of the better AoE nukers out there inside the game. Next up is going to be Arbiter. Arbiter also making the list. I mean, she's probably the most used champion in the arena overall, I would say. I mean, if anybody has Arbiter, odds are you're probably using her somewhere. Probably the arena, probably other places as well. Great for clan boss, great for really anywhere you need an awesome reviver with turn meter. She got the revival, she got the turn meter here, she got turn meter there, she gets extra turn if she revives anybody. She has decreased duration to all buffs on all opponents on the A2. She got great speed, great stats. Arbiter. Still, she's very worthy of being the first champion you get from beating the game before Ramatu. Next up is going to be Royal Guard. Royal Guard, of course, makes the list with a takedown ability. Also, I mean, this does a lot of damage, especially to Hydra Clan Boss. I built him. I had a video out rebuilding Royal Guard in Reflex gear, which I'm really, really enjoying for Hydra Clan Boss. We also have the Hamstring ability 4 times at random on a 4-turn cooldown. We have decreased speed for 2 turns, and each hit also has a chance to deplete turn meter by 25%. People sleep on the Hamstring ability, but it's a fantastic one, guys. Also has attack and damage by 35%. That is fantastic as well. All right, next up, you know what? Tyrell was right there. He was on the original list of 128 or whatever it was, but I cut him. I love you, Tyrell. I love you, Tyrell. But it's the 4-turn cooldown, man. It's really the 4-turn cooldown.
I was born this way. I can't help it.
Kind of pushed me over the edge on not including him. He was like the #1 epic when I started playing this game back in 2019. What about you guys? Any of you old school players out there remember that Tyrell was like the champion that everybody wanted? Vergis also an honorable mention, but that is going to do it. Only Royal Guard for the High Elves. But I'm not done yet. Apothecary did make the list. Only a few rares on the list today, guys, but Apothecary, man, first of all, 3-time hitter on the A1 makes him great for Fire Knight, you know, triple hitter. Great support champion. Great for extra damage vis-a-vis Giant Slayer as well. You can sneaky damage out of Apothecary as a support champion. 2-turn heal. I think the only champion in the game that can have a critical heal, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a really, really strong healing ability here in Apothecary's kit. Again, 2-turn cooldown, that's fantastic. And then we have an increase. How many times am I going to say fantastic in this video? I promise I will not use that adjective one more time. Plays an increased speed on all allies for 2 turns, fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% on a 3-turn cooldown. Again, he does everything that you could want out of an epic champion. Maybe even a legendary champion. Like, better than some legendary, let me just put it that way, right? His kit's not complex, but he does really well at what he does. Defense in dungeons also by 21%. That could be a game changer for people who are early on in the game who are lucky enough to pull an Apothecary. I would just open mystery shards until I got him. That's what I did in my free-to-play account. I probably opened 500 of those bad boys and I finally got an Apothecary. All right, next up is going to be Sacred Order here, guys. Let's go to Astralon. Astralon does make the list. I don't have this chip. I did not go for the fusion. I regret not going for it. You know, I think he's a really cool champion. He has an AoE stun that does a lot of damage as well. I think this is a 4-time multiplier on this AoE Light of Sanctity ability. So it hits pretty hard. We also have a weaken and a stun. A weaken only lands who have a Veil or Perfect Veil removed, then attacks all enemies. Excuse me. Removes all buffs and targets under Veil or Perfect Veil buffs, then places a weaken on the enemies who have Veil or Deals removed, but then he has 100% stun. So I guess all that baloney that I just read, well, very conditional, right? Very conditional. However, good against maybe a Duchess team, a Rector Droth team inside the arena, and then we have the 100% stun. I think it was the first champion added to the game with 100% stun. Now we have Bosatha, and we have Basatha, and we also have Basilius Ruinous, who have 100% stuns on their kits as well. But man, this guy's a nuker who brings a lot more to the table as well. He hits really, really hard. Big fan of this champion. Next up is going to be Martyr. Martyr is an old school champion, counterattack, increased defense. And again, we talked about this with Tyrell. She's one of those champions that people talked about when I started playing the game. Like, she was the #1 champion to get your hands on. Everybody wanted Martyr. Now she's fallen off a little bit, but she still belongs firmly in the top 100 in my opinion. Decrease attack and provoke, fantastic. Increased defense, counterattack, and decrease defense on the A1. Great defense, great HP, and defense in all battles by 33%. A la Raglan on her aura. So very, very good champion there. Next up is going to be one of my personal favorites. I am so freaking high on this guy. Archbishop Pinthroy, man. This guy's a boss. He's a monster. I think, how can I overstate this anymore? This guy is, I promise I will not use that adjective one more time. A beast. A beast. I love him. Okay, I made my point, right? Attacks one enemy, transfers 1 random debuff from this champion to the target. Also, chance of stealing a random buff from the target. Nice A1, right? On the A2, we have an AoE increased defense on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Then attacks all enemies. Places a heal reduction debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Also places 100% when booked. Block buffs on all enemies for 2 turns. Great ability. Block buffs, increased accuracy on all allies, heal reduction on all enemies. Fantastic. And then Gleam of Glory. What a great ability this is. Oh my word. Heals all allies by 30% of their max HP. Then places increased defense on all allies for 2 turns. If 4 or more allies are alive, also places a shield buff on each ally for 2 turns equal to 30% of their max HP. So he's coming at you with the increased accuracy, the block buffs, the shield, a great heal, increased defense, removes all increased defense and weakened debuffs from this champion at the start of each turn as well. Kind of a nice addition, and accuracy in all battles by 50. I really just, I love him. I really love this champion. Anybody else out there have him and enjoy him as much as I do? Bevald of the Thorn. I just pulled this guy and I haven't built him yet, but he does make the list. Very good champion. He has a provoke on the A1. He has an AoE 2-time hitter on 3-turn cooldown here with provoke and leech. Leech and provoke cannot be, it can be placed even if the attack is weak. So he's like the provoke god in this game now. Step aside, Angar. On a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies. Damage increased by 5% for each debuff on each enemy. Also heals all allies by 20% of the damage inflicted and places a shield on them for 2 turns, equal to 20% of the damage inflicted. This is a really, really good ability, guys. And he deals some really solid damage as well. That's the neat thing about him, is he's a provoker, a controller, an HP-based champion who can really dish it out too. Decreases damage taken from all allies under provoke, or all enemies under provoke by all allies by 15%. You guys get the point, right? He has HP in all battles by 28% as well. So yeah, very, very good champion. We got Cernick. Still makes the list. Cernick is great. He has a freeze that cannot be resisted on the A1. Fantastic. On the A2, an AoE with shield. The value of the shield, 30% of the damage inflicted on 3-turn cooldown. A great shield on Cernick. And then he's got unkillable and continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. HP in all battles by 33%. And he can be yours for the cheap cost of, what is it, 6,000 life tokens? 8,000 life tokens? You gotta sacrifice like all your legendaries and you can get yourself a copy in the token trader shop or whatever, or the life token, whatever it is, of Cernick. But either way, very, 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 very good champion. Venus. Oh, Venus. One of the best champions out there in the game. I love Venus as well. So far, personal faves, Venus, and obviously got a Archbishop Pinthroy, right? Poison on the A1. AoE decreased defense and weaken on 3-turn cooldown. We have an AoE provoke. This has been buffed to 100% land rate on the provoke. It should be going into effect in a few days, I think, in Raid Shadow Legends. And then she has remove all buffs from all enemies. 50% chance of granting an extra turn when Cupidus is on the same turn. One of the best companions, kind of tandems inside the game. And look at those base stats, 112 speed, 22k HP. HP in all battles by 33% on the aura. I love Venus. Once Cupidus gets the always counterattacks when Venus is on the same team ability added to his punishing partner, I think he'll also be, a top 100 champion in the game. Next up is Cardiel. Okay, most wanted void champion in the game. It's a toss-up for me between Cardiel and Hegemon. Cardiel is so, so, so good. I promise I will not use that adjective one more time. He's got a True Fear on the A1, heals all allies on the A1. He's got a Cleanse, a block debuffs, and a Revive on Death that cannot be removed on a 3-turn cooldown. This is an insane ability, very good for the arena as well. We have increased crit rate, increased crit damage on all allies, then the ally attack on a 4-turn cooldown. Man, Cardial, you're the best. You're the best. Damage mitigation here, tandem champion with Sissy of Flame Tongue as well, and speed in all battles by 19%. I want Cardial so bad. Constantine, you're not on the list, man. You didn't make the cut. Nowhere even close. Sorry. All right, next up is going to be Deacon Armstrong. Deacon, talking about a Sacred Order epic that does make the top 100 champions. We get the turn meter fill, turn meter decrease, and an extra turn as well. On the A2 ability, we have decreased defense, which we can keep up pretty much all the time because of those extra turns that we're getting from the A3 ability. Also have Leech on the A1 and speed in all battles by 19%. Definitely one of the better control and debuffers out there out of all the epic champions in the game. Next up is going to be Inquisitor Shamil. So Inquisitor, I put him in my top 100 because of how unbelievably crucial he is to so many Hydra Clan boss teams. Previous to that, he was just kind of a niche damage dealer who was kind of interesting. But now, because of this ability, whenever an ally receives a Fear or True Fear debuff from an enemy, this skill will instantly remove that debuff and fill the ally's turn meter by 15%. What a great ability for Hydra Clan boss, and he can dish out just a ton of damage as well. Really, really like Inquisitor Shamil. Next up is going to be, of course, Seeker Aniri. Seeker she's one of the closest things to a legendary that is in the epic category, in my opinion. She has a heal on the lowest ally on the A1. On the A2, this Question Meaning is such a sick ability, guys. An AoE attack heals by 15% all allies at their max HP, then decreases the duration of all buffs on all enemies by 1 turn, and then increases the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. What a sick ability. We get the heal, we get the attack, we get the increase and the decrease. And then we have Rise of Glory. This is on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. We have a very unique revival skill. We have a 50% turn meter, 50% HP, and resets the cooldown of all of their skills. That is a very, very cool ability there. No other champion in the game has it on a revive. And then we have Guardian Angel. It's a failsafe. If an ally is about to get killed by a fatal hit, preempts that, places a revive on death on them before the damage is taken. Also increases the amount of healing all allies receive by 10%. This is fantastic for champions like to pair with champions like Vrask, champions like, I don't know, Operdin, Clan Father, whatever his name is. Champions who are doing a lot of healing, or a passive heal like Rector Drath or like Sylvia Drakes. That really does add up that extra 10% heal over the duration of longer battles. So overall, really, really love Seeker Aniri. Next up is going to be the one and only uncommon to make the list today, ladies and gentlemen. It's Armiger. I didn't forget you, Armiger. Decreased turn meter by 30% on the A1. And then on the A2, on a 2-turn cooldown, we have an enemy max HP ability with a block revive. I mean, an uncommon champion to have this solid of a kit, simple but solid, I mean, that's unheard of in this game. Well, there's only one example of it, and it's him, Armiger. So he does make the list of my top 100 champions in the game, especially if you factor in how relatively easy he is to get. Next up is going to be our girl, my girl, your girl, Sylvia Drakes. It's Clan Father. That's what I said, right? Sylvia Drakes. Syl's amazing, man. Decreased speed on the A1. We get a chance of decreasing the turn meter by 15% as well. Great A1 ability. We have an AoE stun on the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. We get the revival with Ally Protect on a 4-turn cooldown. And then we have a heal at the start of every turn, 10% of their max HP, and an increased speed on a random ally for 2 turns. Fantastic champion. I've said it a million times, I'll say it again, 1,000,001. She is like one of the coolest things that Plarium ever did to this game by adding her as a daily login reward champion. Affected so many accounts in such a positive way. I want them to continue to do that. Deliana was also, I think she was actually really good as well. She didn't make the cut of top 100, but she's still an above average champion in my mind. And I love that they added her for free as well. Valkyrie, she has the best shield in the game, in my opinion. And she also has counterattack on the same ability. And the Jealousy passive is so freaking annoying in the arena, or effective if it's on your squad. This champion's turn meter will be increased by 10% each time an enemy champion places a buff. What? Enemy champions will have their turn meters decrease by 10% for each buff they receive. That is fantastic, man. I just wish it wasn't, I mean, I'm being greedy here. She's like one of the best champions in the game already. But I wish it wasn't champion, it was just the enemy, right? Whenever an enemy champion, right? Like, I wish it was worked against bosses. That would be insane. But either way, for the arena, fantastic, or for any, dungeon clearing. Defensive faction crits by 33% as well. Valkyrie, what more do you want? 1600 defense? Sure, sign me up. I love me some Valkyrie. I'm including, this guy was right there on the fence. I'm sure you guys can probably make a compelling argument why somebody else other than Turvold should be on the list. And I'm willing to hear you guys in the comments if you have a good one, let me know. Turvold was right there at like 99 for me, but for my money, he's one of the most unique and just best raw damage dealers in the game. And I like Turvold. He's my first Void champion that I ever pulled on my account. He has a 2-time with a big version of Weaken on the A1. On the A2, it's a self-buffing ability with an extra turn granted as well. Increased attack, increased crit rate, increased speed, grants an extra turn. And then Juggernaut does a ton of damage. One of the hardest hitting abilities in the game, depending on how many buffs are on him. So if you can stack up buffs on Turvold, Juggernaut is going to be your best friend. It's a very, very good ability. Very good single target damage dealer out there in the game. Next up, we have Tuwanarok. Tuwanarok, I think she's number 3 of my most wanted Void champions after Cardial and Hegemon. But, man, this passive, right? Removes 1 random debuff from all allies starter each turn. Removes 2 random debuffs from all allies under continuous heal buffs. That's a fantastic passive. Just so good, right? Increased defense and increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown, as well as a decreased attack and a block buffs with a debuff spread. What a great champion. Very fast too, solid base stats, kind of tanky with the HP and a little bit of defense on there as well. All right, moving into the Barbarian Epics. So again, a lot of like really, really close champions here on the Barbarian Epics. I love Skytouch Shaman, but I did not include her on the list. I love High Katoon. I actually really love Alika. Ayena's not bad as well, but I went with the Fat Man, Varric the Fat. How could I not? This guy's a beast. I just did a Blender comp video yesterday or 2 days ago. Check that one out, guys. I had so much fun with this champion. Built him super fast. Put him on a Blender comp, increased crit rate, increased crit damage. You build the rest of the team to 70% crit rate and just watch them absolutely annihilate with this ability. Beatdown is one of my favorite ally attack abilities in the game. He also has an HP burn and a poison on a 3-turn cooldown, and he also has decreased defense on his A1. So very, very good champion. Great addition to the game. Next up, Ogryn Tribe is going to be Biggin. Now, Biggin was the first legendary I ever pulled on my account. Weird how I know that. Do you guys know that? My first legendary was Biggin. My first epic was Skullcrusher. And my first Void, well, I already told you, was Turvold. AoE on every single ability, provided the first attack is critical. On the A2, we have a stun. We have decreased accuracy. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. Very, very good multipliers. One of the better damage dealers inside the entire game. And then we have an AoE ×2, decreased target's turn meter, and a decreased speed on a 5-turn cooldown. Molten Slag, fantastic ability as well. I still use Biggin, and I use him against Dark Fae. Accuracy and done is by 90. What an aura. This was massive for me when I was starting, when I didn't have my Great Hall developed, or, it's tough to get accuracy before you ascend all your champions and all that good stuff. Next up is going to be Warmother.
I've turned the fasten seatbelt sign back on because is about to get real.
No, I'm just joking.
I don't want to do this no more.
Nacious, great defense-based damage dealer, right? And control champion. He has a stun on his A1. He has a provoke on his A2. On his A3, he's got the HP burn that cannot be resisted. AoE HP burn that can't be resisted. AoE provoke on the A2 as well. Can deal some nice damage. I use him against the Frost Spider. Gerbtuck Mossbeard. This is not a joke, unlike Warmother. He is on my list. I like this guy that much, guys. Some people still kind of forget or remember how bad he was before his buff, but now I think he's a fantastic champion. He has continuous heal for 1 turn on all allies under poison on his A1. On his A2, 2-turn cooldown when booked. A cleanse of poisons from an ally, and then everything except poisons, excuse me. Then heals them by 30% of their max HP and places a shield on them as well. On the A3, we get 3 poisons on all allies, weak versions of poisons, not the strong ones anymore. These debuffs cannot be resisted or blocked. Also has a 100% chance of placing block buffs on all enemies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Great for Hydra Clan Boss. And then all allies under poison inflict 7.5% more damage for each poison debuff on them, stacks up to 30%. Fantastic extra damage from this champion that you can get on your whole squad. I really, really like Gurptuk. Next up is going to be Gurgo the Augur. So Gurgo, this is a cool champion, man. I was kind of borderline at first, but I'm like, nah, he deserves to be on the list. He's a boss, man. He's kind of off meta, but I really like this dude. Yeah, remove 2 random buffs from all enemies, and then has a 100% chance of placing a freeze on all enemies for 1 turn. Grant an extra turn. What a great opening arena move. Just a great crowd control ability. We get the buff removal and the freeze guaranteed. And then the extra turn, which basically pushes it down from a 4-turn win book to a 3-turn cooldown. And then we have an avalanche that does a really effective amount of damage, especially if they have that freeze, which they do because you open up with the A2. Also has his passive where every single time he's attacked, he has a 50% chance of placing a freeze on the attacker if this champion loses 20% or more of the HP in one attack. So a nice passive there as well. He's, in my mind, I think he's the king of freeze in this game. Okay, next up is going to be, of course, my personal favorite epic champion in the game. It's Ugo. Leech on the A1, AoE decreased defense, block buffs, fantastic. Just this ability is so money, man. I love it. I love it. Then we have remove all heal reduction debuffs from all allies, and then another debuff from all allies, and then heals all allies by 20% of the champion's max HP. So, and then we have all the revival stuff as well. But it's so cool to have a champion that kind of serves 2 different roles on your team, right? Those are the type of champions that I really look for and I really value highly in this game. And she has the leech, and she has the heal, and she has the cleanse. And then she also has block buffs, and then she also has decreased defense. And she also has kind of a break in case of emergency revival. She has just an insanely good and diverse kit. Really, really love this fantastic, I can't say fantastic. Love this great champion. All right, next up is going to be Skullcrusher. Skullcrusher, man, he's on the list still. He's still one of the only 3 champions in the game, Martyr, Valkyrie, and now Skullcrusher, who has counterattack. So he has ally protection and counterattack on the same 3-turn cooldown. That one book, man, this is the one ability that everybody wants that book to go to. Not to the A1, because we don't care about the extra damage on his A1, right? We just want it to go to that A2. But overall, just a really, really good champion and very unique champion as well. Does what he does very effectively. Next up is going to be, of course, by the way, Grush I initially had on the list, but I took him off at the end. Maneater. I mean, this guy, decreased attack on all enemies if the attack is critical on the A1. We have an A1 decreased attack AoE, essentially. Wow, awesome. And we don't have to worry about weak hits because he's void affinity. On the A2, we are fully depleting target's turn meter and then basically stealing it. We're filling their turn meter to the amount the target loses. Wow, that's great too. And then, of course, the ability is known for unkillable block debuffs. He's really for a long time, he's the centerpiece of basically every unkillable team out there. He still is in a lot of different unkillable teams. Just a fantastic champion overall. Definitely belongs inside the top 100. I put Uragrim on the list as well. Speeding all battles by 20%, great aura. He got a pretty big nerf. He got a big nerf, right? He used to have a 3-time hitter. Now he's a 2-time hitter on his A1. Chance of placing poisons. On this ability, removes all debuffs from an ally, then heals them 40% of their max HP. Really solid ability here. But then this Bizarre Vapors, it was brought down to brought up to a 6-turn cooldown from a 5-turn or 3 when booked. So again, a pretty big nerf to this dude, but he's still one of the better champions out there with 2 poisons on all enemies and a continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns. Got a little Bad Alcazar on the A3, got a little Steel Skull on the A2, and then of course he has the speed aura, so I still include him personally on my list of top 100. We have another rare that made the list, guys, and it's Bellower. Bellower is just such a cool rare champion. He can really do it all. He's very versatile. He can be a nuker, he can be a control champion in the stun set, he can be a campaign farmer, right? So he has block active skills on an AoE on his A1, he has an AoE decreased speed on his A2, and an AoE decreased attack and decreased defense on his A3. So everything this guy's putting out are AoE attacks, man. Guy's really, really good. Great. They need to make more rares like Bellower in the game, right? All right, guys, we're almost halfway through the list. Next up, Dracomorph. So Dracomorph is a boss. He's got weakened decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown, a la Venus's A2 abilities, same ability. And then we have 4 times at random, each hit with a poison, so 4 poisons on a boss, 3-turn cooldown, awesome. And then we have Seeping Pain, which just deals an absurd amount of damage on an A1 from an already fantastic champion. Dracomorph used to be one of the worst legendaries in the game. Now he's one of the best legendaries in the game. Next up is going to be, a lot of people put Basatha as one of the best champions out there. Actually noticed that Hades, I think, ranked him at first a 5 out of 5, like a perfect ranking. But personally, I have him, and I don't love him. He does have an AoE guaranteed stun, and he does have kind of a cool passive, but I think this passive is trumped by Lydia's passive, you know, and people who have Basatha at this point probably already have Lydia too. So I think he's just kind of good champion in a vacuum, but practically I don't really use him. Anyway, enough about a champion who's not even on our list. We have Rosalind Scarhide is on our list, guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. It took me a while to really appreciate how good that Rosalind is. 3-time hitter, great for Giant Slayer, removing a random buff from the target on his A1, does a lot of damage for a defense-based champion. On the A2, we have decreased defense and weaken on the same 3-turn cooldown, a great debuffer against bosses. On the A3, attacks all enemies, 100% turn meter reduction on a 6-turn cooldown, makes him viable in the arena or really anywhere else you want a really solid champion with a 100% turn meter reduction. He's versatile, and we talked about this. We keep banging that same drum here, but a champion who can place the debuffs on bosses, everything you need. We got the turn meter, and we got the triple hitter with a lot of damage. Sign me up, man. Everybody should fuse Rosalind Scarhide, in my opinion. Krisk, widely considered to be the best champion in the game. We have AoE decreased speed on the A1 and AoE ally protect, increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn, continuous heal on himself, and then an AoE provoke, increase defense on himself, increase speed on all allies on a 3-turn cooldown. I mean, insane, as if it couldn't get any better. He's got the shield at the start of each round, 50% of his HP on all allies. That's a massive shield. And then, when attacked, has a 100% chance of placing a decreased defense and decreased attack on the attacker for 1 turn when he's hit. I mean, that's absurd. It's insane. This kit is broken, and I love it. All right, next up is going to be Ramen 2 Drake's Blood. So Ramen 2 Drake's Blood, this is the champion that you get from beating the game, essentially, or the missions in the game. Very cool kit. I'm not going to read it all out because I'll be here for another hour and a half. But he has all debuffs known to man here on the on a 3-turn cooldown on his A2 ability. And then he has his Blood Wings as an attack, removing all buffs. We got a cleanse on a 3-turn cooldown. We got block active skills or block passive skills from enemies who have them. Very unique ability to be able to block passive skills. And then he'll instantly fill his turn meter and place an increased speed buff on him when he's CC'd, essentially, as well. So very good champion overall. Certainly worthy, in my opinion at least, of being kind of the end game reward for missions. Shogger! I really like this dude, man. I pulled him maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and I've been having some fun with him. He has a sleep on his A1. He has his passive, right? Instantly attacks enemies with a default skill whenever they receive damage from poison debuffs placed by this champion. He has an AoE poison on a 3-turn cooldown with decreased defense. It's a really good ability. An AoE ×2 hitter too, right? The first hit, poison. Second hit, decreased defense for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Poison lasts for 4 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. That's great. A lot of people don't recognize the value, not just from Shogger, but any champion, the value of having that long duration on the debuffs, right? That's really, really powerful. And then he has basically Heartstopper ignores extra damage and grants an extra turn and it kills an enemy of the Venom Storm ability, the A2 ability. So overall, I really, really like this champion. Very cool. And all those A1s that he's just dishing out every time anybody takes damage from poison is tremendous. Next up is going to be Venom Mage. First off, Venom Mage, I'm so sorry that I forgot to mention you. In my only 14 champions have passive abilities that mitigate damage. It should be 15, and I'm so sorry to Venom Mage. I love you, Venom Mage. And I'm sorry to all of you in the comments, all 300 of you guys who let me know about it. I love you guys. Enemies under heal reduction, debuffs inflict 15% less damage. Hey, it's a reason to have heal reduction debuff on your squad, right? Venom Mage is great, right? A 2-time hitter, decreased target's max HP is 75% of the damage inflicted if they're under heal reduction, and each hit has a 50% chance of activating up to 2 poison debuffs on the target. The instant activation of poison on the A1 is incredible. We also have decreased defense, decreased attack, and then we have a heal reduction and poison on the A3 on a 3-turn cooldown. Just a really, really solid champion overall. Definitely makes the list. Next up, we have, that's it for Listener, right? Yeah. All right, we're making our way to Skinwalkers here, guys. Oof, this was really close. I love Norog. I had Norog initially on the list. I took him off. I had Cleo initially on the list, but I took her off. I put Coronar on the list. Coronar is one of those champions that I think some people really love this dude, and some people are just like, yeah, average legendary. Me, I'm in the camp of really loving this dude. Otherwise, why would he be on the list? I think he's amazing for control, especially. He can be so annoying to face against, right? Constant, just battering of AoE attacks with turn meter reduction on his A1 ability. He counterattacks when hit by enemies under decreased attack, decreased defense, or decreased speed debuffs. If Manai's on the same team, he always counterattacks. Increased defense on all allies if he kills an enemy as well. He has decreased attack. He has decreased defense in his kit, provided they're under decreased attack. And then on his A2, he has 100% provoke on a 3-turn cooldown with block debuffs and decreased defense on this champion. Removes all debuffs from this champion if Manai's on the same turn. I mean, that's a really, really solid kit, guys. Again, the AoE with turn meter decrease that he's just using all the time with those counterattacks off the passive. He's just a tremendous champion, in my opinion. How do you guys feel about Coronar? Tamisha, one of my personal favorites, guys. She's amazing. She got the AoE HP burn for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. We just talked about that with Shogger, how important that is. We also have a stun, 100% stun on targets who have 50% turn meter or more. 100% decreased speed for 3 turns, again on 3-turn cooldown, on targets with 50% turn meter or less. Wow. What a great ability, huh? And then Burning Regret, it's just a massive damage dealing potential. It stacks for every HP burn in the battle up to 400%. Decreases the target's turn meter by an additional 15%, or 15% initially, then an additional 50% for each HP burn debuff in the battle. What a great champion. Whenever an ally receives a freeze, there's a 50% chance of replacing it with HP burn instead. Fantastic. I really, really love Tamisha. Great champion. Leo!
Proof you are not a dog.
Welcome to unrealization.
Are you kidding? You're a dog.
Leo makes the list, guys. He's one of my favorite arena nukers. Definitely in my top 3. I guess I would say Trunda, Leo, and Magnar would be my top 3 arena nukers. Who are yours? We have a 2-time hitter with decreased defense on the A1. We have attacks all enemies 2 times, but if you don't use this ability, he's immune to CC. So for the arena, that's great. You can go right into a Torment team and not have to worry about getting frozen or anything like that, right? On the A3 ability, this is his big, awesome roar, his big AoE nuke that makes him fantastic in the arena. And hey, if you don't kill him, you can place a True Fear. Not too bad. Also, before attacking, has a 100% chance to place a Weaken as well. Fantastic champion, great nuker, great champion. I said fantastic like 100 times already. Damn, you ever realize you have that self-aware moment where you're like, okay, I guess I just say fantastic all the time. That's so lame. It's like the worst adjective. It's overused. Whatever, I digress. Orcs, Kreela, Witch Arm. I think Kreela, she was my favorite ally attack champion in the game, but I think that the Fat Man, I think Farrakhan the Fat took her title, but I love it. We get a stun on a 3-turn cooldown, and then we have 3 allies joining in the attack. And again, 3-turn cooldown. Only ally attack off the top of my head that's on a 3-turn cooldown. Fantastic, right? That's what makes her really, really special, really unique. She also has an increased attack and an increased crit rate on all allies for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Fantastic. Great. That's just splendid. Superb ability here. God. All right. Kreela Witch Arm. Next up. Oh my God, guys. It's going off the rails quick. This is what happens when you get past the 40-minute mark in a video with me. Props to you guys. The true, OG, real, 100% viewers for still watching this late into the video. Iron Brago. Dude, I love this guy. Increased defense for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Also has a stun shot. On the A3, an AoE provoke 75% land rate, also decrease attack debuff on enemies for 2 turns if he's under an increased defense, which he basically always is, right? So decrease attack as well. He also has increased the defense of all allies by 10% of this champion's defense. This is such a great passive ability, guys. Bestow strength indeed. We also have defense in Doom Tower battles by 34%. Big fan of Iron Brago. Next up is going to be Warlord. Obviously, Warlord is the king of the arena. We have a block debuff. We have a shield as well. We also have a heal on the A2. Orcish Rituals, 100% chance to put each target skills on cooldown, and then a 60% chance when booked to fully deplete their turn meter as well. This is on a 4-turn cooldown. This is insane, man. I mean, it's insane. Very scary champion, especially in the arena. Next up is going to be Duke the Pierced. Duke, don't call me Duck the Pierced. Really like this champion, guys. He has a decreased accuracy on his A1, great. On his A2, a la Stag Knight, he has decreased attack and decreased defense. He's a defense-based champion, so a little bit easier to keep alive compared to Stag Knight as well. He also has a provoke on 1 enemy, but a 75% chance of placing provoke for 1 turn on 2 random enemies instead of 1. Also has reflect and unkillable on himself, and defense and fashion crits by 31%. We're not done here. We have one more, and there she is. It's Seer. Karma Burn. Enough said. I mean, this ability is one of the best nukes in the game. It's one of the best nukes in the game. She is another kind of broken champion in terms of how effective she is compared to every other champion out there. But as long as you get enough buffs on your team, you're going to burn through any wave out there. Such a massive time saver as well. Love me some Seer. Longtime viewers certainly know that. All right, Demon Spawn, guys. We have Prince Kymar, a lot of Demon Spawn, a lot of good Demon Spawn. Seal of Magic, we reset the cooldown of all allies skills with turn meter fill, sign me up. Abyssal Gaze, one of the best opening arena moves out there. Attacks all enemies, removes their buffs and places, puts them to sleep. And an AoE poison on the A1, speed in arena battles by 30%. Really solid champion. We have Tyrant Ixlamore, excuse me. He has an HP burn on 3-turn cooldown that, you know, lasts for 3 turns. Fantastic. Also has Ally Protect and increased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. Man, he's got support and he's got damage. He also has damage mitigation on all enemies that have HP burn debuffs applied. I really want to get my hands on this dude. I do not have him. Do any of you guys? Those who do have him, because, again, I hate talking too much about champions I've never played personally, but I think he's a top 100 champion. I want him, like, I think he's really nasty. What about you guys? Let me know. Countess Lix, 2-time hitter with weekend on the A1. On the A2, a 3-time hitter, Mire of Misery indeed, on a 4-turn cooldown, 100% decreased speed. Each hit also has a 75% chance, 100% of decreasing charge turn meter by 10%, and that's on each hit. So 30% turn meter reduction on this A2 ability. Great control champion, and it keeps getting better. On time dilation, on a 5-turn cooldown, and AoE block active skills also decrease the cooldown of all ally skills by 1 turn. Amazing. Great champion. Next up is going to be Drexstar Blood Twin. Drexstar. I mean, AoE provoke is nice. 3-time hitter with heal on the A1. Great. Can keep himself alive very nicely indeed. And then he has HP burn for 2 turns on the attacker every single time he's hit. That's great against bosses. He's tanky. He can solo a lot of bosses. Drexstar Blood Twin is also available in the Bazaar. You just need to buy his champion tokens so everybody can get your hands on this champion, and he is definitely worth getting your paws on. All right, next up is going to be, I put Candy on the list, man. Canderfon is such a great arena nuker. I just pulled him as well, and I've just started using him, and boy, this Butcher's Glee ability smacks. Certainly can make a strong case he is the best Force Affinity nuker out there in the game. I would tend to agree. He has this amazing self-buff ability with Perfect Veil. When he's under the Veil or Perfect Veil, he's receiving 40% less damage, and his damage increases by 40% as well. So you can set him up with a Rector Drath or a Duchess. I mean, sayonara, bye-bye to the other team on this Butcher's Glee ability. Great multipliers here on a 3-turn cooldown. Next up is going to be Sissia Flametongue. You guys know, in my opinion, one of the best like raw damage dealers out there. Not even raw because it's coming from the HP burn, I guess, but one of the best damage dealers out there, right? HP burn on a 4-turn cooldown and Firestorm right grants an extra turn if HP burn debuff is placed on all enemies. She can come right back in with Flame Eruption. It instantly activating any HP burn debuffs on the target. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. The instant activation of HP burn can just do incredible things. I've showed it many times here on the channel before, so I won't show you in today's video, but we're talking just millions and millions of damage. Insane, depending on where you're using her, of course. Wither the Crowned is on the list. Man, she's so tanky. She got the dagger. She's been impaled, as you guys can see. That's freaky, man. Isn't that freaky? Ugh. Right through her heart, man. Right through her heart. And she's just dancing. She doesn't care. We have an AoE with Leech and a continuous heal on a random ally on an A1. We're already starting out strong. On the A2, she's fast, too. A lot of HP, too. Increased defense on all allies on a 3-turn cooldown. Also increases the duration of all continuous heal buffs on all allies by 1 turn, then instantly activates any continuous heal. So an instant activator. And then we have a cleanse and a heal on a 3-turn cooldown on the A3. Place a continuous heal on the ally with lowest HP at the start of each turn. Wow. I'm going to be honest with you. I use her, I have her, and I forgot how good she was. I forgot that she had the cleanse and the heal on this ability, right? Man, she's such a good healer. She's probably, you can make a case she's the best healer in the game, I think. What about you guys? All right, next up is going to be, obviously, Duchess. Although I'm very curious to see what they do with the A3 of Lord Shazar here. How much extra bomb damage are we going to be getting? Remains to be seen. Duchess, best revival in the game. Best AoE revival in the game, arguably. We have 70% HP of Veil on all allies, mitigating 7.5% damage and making them untargetable with single target attacks, and then a continuous heal on all allies, whether they're revived or not, for 2 turns. It's on a 4-turn cooldown. We also have one of the best damage mitigation passives in the game. Decreases damage taken from all allies by AoE attacks by 25%, 15 from bosses. Great. And then we have block debuffs, we have increased attack, and we have perfect veil on a 4-turn cooldown and Shroud of Souls, and then a nice little handy shield on the A1 could be annoying to go against. Duchess, you're a beast. Helikath! The most recent fusion at the time of this recording in the game, guys. I'm sure a lot of you guys went for Helikath, and great decision if you did. If you didn't, there's always next time, I guess. Maybe you can pull him from a shard. This dude, the dude with no feet, is a very, very cool champion. He has an AoE with a shield based on this champion's defense, a la Valkyrie. On the A3 ability, we have block damage for 2 turns on all allies, a la Roshkar the Tower. But what's different about him is when it expires, he's replacing it with an increased defense on a 4-turn cooldown. Also, defense in all battles by 30%. Great aura, and then increases champion's defense by 5% for each ally under a block damage buff. Counterattacks with a default skill whenever an ally is hit with or hit under a block damage buff. That's amazing, man. This guy can deal damage. He has a great shield. He has block damage. What more do you want? This guy's great. The best unkillable champion in the game, or I should say, like, block damage, but you know what I'm saying, like, as part of an unkillable team, in my opinion, excuse me. All right, next up is going to be Allure. Allure's A1. Enough said, right? Enough said. Best control ability, arguably, inside the entire game as well. 3-time hitter, decrease the target's turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. Why do I keep doing it? I swear it's a Freudian thing. It's not. I'm not trying to make a joke of it. This is ridiculous. But at least I'm catching myself now. I'm making progress very, very slowly, but surely. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. I never said I was a good YouTuber. Mediocre at best. All right. We have an AoE with decreased defense, weak version on the A2, and we have a decently hard-hitting Hellish Blaze. Doesn't hit as hard as you think, ignoring 50% of defense, but it's really all about her A1 ability. Next up is going to be, I mentioned him earlier, Magnar. Dude, one of the best go second nukers out there in the game. We have an AoE with an extra hit on the A2. This ability just smacks on a 3-turn cooldown. Fantastic champion. Has defense and Doom Tower battles. Has a debuff spread with a hard-hitting Fan the Flames ability on his A3 as well. Just a great damage dealer. Has decreased defense on his A1. And this champion heals the champion by 1% of max HP every time anyone in the battle takes damage from an HP burn debuff. Pretty cool passive too, like a passive heal based on HP burn is pretty cool. I love Magnar. Next up is going to be this. People might take issue with this one. Umbral Enchantress. I put her on the list and I did not remove her, but she was borderline for me, to be real. I really like Umbral. She's so unique. She has a 2-turn provoke. That's great. Granted, she's locking herself out for 5 turns, but a 2-turn provoke is great for the arena or anywhere you need to control the enemy team. Also, her A2 ability is block buffs on a 3-turn cooldown that lasts for 3 turns. The only champion out there, to my knowledge, I could be wrong on this one, that has block buffs that can just be up all the time. Especially since she's Void Affinity too, you don't have to worry about weak hits. Great for Hydra Clan Boss especially, and that's why I put her on the list, because I think that with Hydra added to the game, whatever it's been 6 months ago or so, I think that this really lets Umbral shine in an area other than just the arena. It gives her utility out of this A2 ability. All right, next up is going to be Undead Horde Rotos, the Lost Groom. This is my main damage carry on my main arena team. I love this champion, Fated Destruction. Just smacks, man. Smacks, and he grants an extra turn if the skill kills an enemy. And then he comes right back in with a Vitality Plunder, the A2. Hopefully you kill him on the second hit as well. He did receive a pretty decent, pretty sizable nerf, but I still think he's just one of the best champions out there in terms of single target for just overall damage. I really, really love Rotos, the Lost Groom. All right, next up is going to be Bad El Khazar. The BEK killer has an AoE with a heal on the A1, on the A2. We get a cleanse. We have a continuous heal. And then we have 2 poisons on all enemies. Malice, Bad El and a reflex. Malice after Malice after Malice, or Bad El and Relentless. This guy can just do some serious damage and just a great support champion. You can have this guy practically solo a bunch of dungeons as well. Really, really big fan. Also has 20% more damage against targets under poison debuffs. Great champ. Next up, gonna be Mashald. Mashald, man, talking about Dracomorph, we mentioned this earlier, right? When we're talking about the worst champion in the game, worst legendary, going to be one of the best. Same thing for Mashald. On the A1, we have a heal. Then we'll attack all enemies under leech debuffs, which he has on a 3-turn cooldown on his A2 ability. We have increased this tornado, man. Increased speed, increased crit damage, true fear, and leech on all enemies, and then grants an extra turn. What? 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 Grants an extra turn? Wow, that's great. Then has heal reduction. We have a decently hard-hitting open wounds ability here. We're stealing all buffs from the target before attacking too. Great for Hydra Clan Boss. Just a really, really good champion for Hydra Clan Boss, but really good anywhere in the game. Next up is going to be Nethril. I included Nethril on the list because I think a lot of people sleep on this dude, man. They see his triple hitter with poison on the A1. For a long time, Nethril was just known as like, okay, so he's a decent poison damage dealer for Clan Boss on a counterattack team or something like that. But man, he's an AoE with stun, 75% chance on a 4-turn cooldown on his A2 ability. He has decreased speed if they're not under a stun, so you're getting some sort of control out of this ability regardless. And then the A3, more control, Bat Swarm, an AoE attack again, decreased target's turn meter by 75% on a 4-turn cooldown. What a great control champion who can also dish out a decent amount of damage with those poisons as well. Really, really like Nethril, guys. Next up is going to be Sippy. Well, even after her nerf, she's still a fantastic champion. I'd put a stake in me. Put a Wither the Crown stake right through my heart. All right, block debuffs, increased defense, increased speed on a 4-turn cooldown. Great ability. And then we have a really, truly great revival, right? Love Beyond Death. Revives a single ally, 50% HP, and a full turn meter. Increase attack, increase crit rate on that ally for 2 turns. A great companion champion with Rotos. Cleanses him at the start of each turn. Heals each ally by 10% of their max HP at the start of their turn. Chance of removing freeze and fear debuffs from each ally at the start of their turn as well. Guaranteed sleep that can't be resisted on the A1. Amazing base stats, one of the fastest champions in the game at 114 speed. Yeah, Siffy is a goat. Necret. Speaking of goats, guys, this guy, wow. Love Necret the Great. Has an ally attack, on all allies under ally protection. He has ally protection, block debuffs, and a strengthen on an ally. Ally protect cannot be removed on the 3-turn cooldown. And then, whenever an ally is attacked while under an ally protection, places a shield buff on that equal to 30% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. Also, it decreases the cooldown of the champion's Legion of the skill by 2 turns if the shield buff is placed. Wow, that's his ally attack, right? And then, Arise My Minions passive. Block debuffs, strengthen, ally protect at the start of each round on the ally with the lowest max HP. That's great for the arena. You can basically protect your most vulnerable and most important part of your team largely in your nuker, right? So he really opens up so many tremendous possibilities in the arena, but he's a great champion to use, frankly, anywhere in the game. Euros the Soul Cage. He's on the list. I think he's my only Doom Tower hard champion that made the list. Call of the Cage is a great ability, man. When attacked, has a 75% chance of placing a poison debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. This allows you to solo multiple Doom Tower bosses. What more can you ask of a champion, right? He also has Strength and Ally Protect on a 3-turn cooldown. And he also has an AoE attack with decreased speed and a chance of a stun if there are if they're under more than 3 poison debuffs. So overall, he's a little niche, I guess. But boy, I use him. I imagine everybody who gets him eventually will be using him. Really a fan of Euros the Soul Cage. He grew on me quite a bit as well. Okay, is that it for Crypt King Growl? I forgot him. So I don't have him either, guys. Crypt King and Harvest Jack are the my two missing legendaries from Undead Horde. And man, Crypt King's kit seems really impressive, dynamic, and unique. 107 base speed, a speedy champion. We have a decreased attack on the A1, on the A2, an AoE HP burn on a 3-turn cooldown, and then attacks all enemies. Plays a freeze debuff on the target for 1 turn if they're under an HP burn debuff, and also extends the duration of any HP burn debuffs to 3 turns. This extension cannot be resisted. Wow! I would love to try him out with a champion like Sylvia. That's amazing. Instant activation, and then unresistible extension. Cool kit. Definitely unique. Definitely, no other champion in the game quite like him, that's for sure. Out of nowhere, Husk makes the list because of the Despair ability. Husk really became part of the overall champion zeitgeist, or meta zeitgeist, in Raid Shadow Legends with the addition of the Hydra clan boss. He hits enemy max HP, a great ability here in Despair. Force Affinity, enemy max HP. He also has a stun on this same ability. Great champion if you're just looking for a lot of raw damage or a little bit of CC if you're using him elsewhere other than Hydra Clan Boss. Also has a Provoke on his A1, also useful now for Hydra Clan Boss, so great champion. We also put Mausoleum Mage on the list in terms of epics from the Undead Horde. This guy has decreased speed on his A1. On his A2, increased crit rate, increased defense, and block debuffs on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, granted, the block debuffs only last for 1 turn, but still this is a great ability, especially for an epic champion. On the A3, we have a cleanse with a heal and a turn meter fill, depending on how many buffs are removed, or debuffs are removed. Wow, so he's cleansing and adding increased defense and healing. Again, we talked about with Ugo, a champion who can do a lot of different things. I really enjoy that. All right, next up is going to be... Okay, so this might be another one of my controversial... Actually, what am I doing, Night Revenant? This might be one of my controversial opinions here. But I put Lannicus the Chosen on the list. So, 108 speed, very fast, a lot of HP, and I really like Lannicus. She has a continuous heal on this champion for 1 turn if the attack is critical on the A1. She has an ally attack, 3 random allies on a 4-turn cooldown. The allies joining attack will use their default skill. Fills a turn meter of all allies by 30%, so a turn meter fill of 30% on this ability as well. That's great. And then increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. You guys know, if you've been watching the channel for any amount of time, I love buff extenders. And Lannicus has it all with turn meter fill on an ally attack. She also has increased crit rate and increased attack with a chance of granting an extra turn. 50% chance when booked on a 4-turn cooldown. Helps her cycle through more ally attacks because it's on a 4-turn cooldown. So I actually really am a big fan of Lannicus the Chosen, but I imagine most of you would have Xavier over Lannicus, and that's the decision I was kind of under, but I'm personally just a big fan of Lannicus. I did go with Blind Seer on the list. Blind Seer, 115, again, one of the fastest champions out there inside the entire game. She has block debuffs for 2 turns and a shield on a 3-turn cooldown. She also has a revival with block damage on all allies on a 5-turn cooldown. The revival isn't the best in the game because only 35% HP. Granted, she does have the block damage, but that can be removed as well. So not the best revival, but incredibly fast. Defense in all battles by 34%. I want to say that's the best in the game. And then 3 time at random, each hit with decreasing turn meter by 15%. That's a great control addition to the A1 of Blind Seer as well. All right, next up is Lydia. Obviously, I personally power rank Lydia as number 2 champion in the game. I just think this ability, Siren's Wail, I mean, people know her for the Death's Hold. She can deny revival attempts. But this Siren's Wail, decrease defense, weaken, strengthen, and increase speed all on 1 ability on 3-turn cooldown. That doesn't even seem fair. That's an insanely good ability. And then we have poison sensitivity, block buffs, and block active skills. Lock out somebody on a 3-turn cooldown. Really, really love me some Lydia. Definitely worthy of the tough task of completing all faction crypts with 3 stars on every stage. Vizix, the Unbowed, does make the list as well. Great control champion. Also, guys, she has decreased target's turn meter on her A1, excuse me. She has an AoE decreased speed, AoE ally protect on a 3-turn cooldown. A nice amount of defense. You need it because she's taking a lot of damage, because she also has provoke in her kit and a guaranteed AoE provoke on a 3-turn cooldown with a shield on herself as well in defense and faction crits by 37%. She got a massive buff, and she went from being one of the most underwhelming to one of the most overwhelmingly solid Void champions out there. Void legendaries, certainly. Speaking of solid Void legendaries, Mithrala Lightbane. Wow, she's really good. In my opinion, top 10 champion in the game. We have 2 poisons on the A1. On the A2, an AoE with Hex. Also increase defense and increase attack on all allies. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. Okay, great. And then we have a Cleanse, a Strengthen, and a Shield on a 3-turn cooldown on our A3. And then, this is cool, the Hex and Petrification, awesome. But look at this. Also increases this champion's resistance. The amount of which it is increased is equal to the amount of accuracy this champion has. So she's basically the highest resist champion in the game. Whenever you see her in the arena, and everybody's using her in Platinum Arena right now, or at least a lot of people are, and she resists everything because they just build her with so much accuracy, and thus she's super high accuracy, super high resistance, with a shield, with a cleanse, with an increased attack, increased defense, Hex, Petrification. Wow, she's really, really, really good, guys. I'm so happy that they made her really good, because eventually everybody will get her from the Hydra Clan Boss. They need to add another Hydra Clan Boss champion, though, don't they? It's kind of weird there's only one. Like, add one after that, like Doom Tower, right? No? Maybe? Darkhail makes the list. He is, some would say he's the best epic in the game. I would put him in the conversation, but as with all these champions, it depends on what you're looking for, right? Depends on what you need. 3-time hitter with instant activation of poison or HP burn on the A1. On the A2, AoE decreased defense, increase the duration of all debuffs on the target as well on a 3-turn. And then a reality acid, we have 3 poisons, and a poison sensitivity on the target for 2 turns. So poison and poison sensitivity on a 3-turn cooldown, decreased crit rate on the passive by 15% on enemies who have 2 or more poison debuffs. Clan Boss does have 15% crit rate, so we're basically reducing all critical hits from the Clan Boss with Darkhail Great Doom Tower Secret Room normal champion. Sylar was right there, borderline for me, but I included Madame Ceres instead. Madame Ceres, Trick and Treat's ability is great. We have an AoE, steal buff, block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns. If any buff is stolen, we get True Fear on enemies who have buffs stolen. We get Midnight Ritual, decreased attack, decreased defense, strips all buffs from all enemies, and then some shield and fear synergy on our passive. Really, really still top-notch option for arena debuffer. I still use her on my main speed team inside the arena. Just gotta love the buff removal and the debuffs on that same ability. Makes her really, really good. Next up is going to be Coulthart. For my money, the best rare in the game. Heartseeker. Damage, decreases the target's turn meter by 100%. Insane damage. AoE with the Art of Pain that deals decent damage, and a 4-time hitter on her A1 makes her great for Fire Knight as well. Take that shield down and then nuke away with the A3, really against any boss, namely Spider, but really any boss who's susceptible to turn meter reduction on the A3 on the Heartseeker. We said the same thing with Bellower, but I'll say it again here, an hour and 10 minutes into the video. They need to make more rare champions like Coulthart. I mean, and I'm not asking for every rare to be this good, but every 6 months, give us a rare this good, right? Is that too much to ask, player?
Are you asking or ordering me?
Next up is going to be a champion that actually grew on me quite a bit as of late after I pulled her, and that is Mother Cybele. She has a decreased speed on her A1 on an AoE. Great. Fills the champion's turn meter by 15%. That's a really solid AoE on the A1, 50% chance at landing the big version of decreased speed. We have Revive on Death and increased defense on a 3-turn cooldown on the A2. On the A3, we get a swap HP with an ally. If this, well, you guys can read. I'll be here for another hour and a half, but a pretty cool ability here on the A3 as well. And then fully heals the ally with the lowest HP whenever this champion is killed. Heals all allies by 20% of their max HP and fills a turn meter by 15% whenever this champion is revived. And then has speed in all battles by 24%. That's the same as Lisandra's. So really love her, and she's so fast. 115 speed, one of the fastest, like Blind Seer and Siphi and whatnot, one of the fastest champions out there inside the entire game. So previously, before I pulled her, this is why I asked you guys about champions like Tyrant Ixlamore and about Crypt King, because that's a champion that I probably would not have included on the list until I pulled her and I realized how good she was. Next up is going to be Tomb Lord. I can't believe they buffed this guy. He's really, really good. 3-time hitter with decreased speed on his A1. He has a chance of placing 4 poisons on all enemies for 2 turns. What? 4 poisons on an AoE on all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown. And then we have a decreased turn meter, decreased attack, and decreased defense. Extra turn if the enemy's turn meter is decreased by this skill on the Blight ability, bringing it down essentially from a 4-turn to a 3-turn when booked. So he's debuffing and just landing a ton of damage, a little bit of control with a decreased speed on the A1 on Tomb Lord. Here he is, guys. Calvalax! Oh, my most wanted champion. 4 poison debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns at the start of each round. What? And AoE damage increases according to the number of poison debuffs on the target on the A3. On the A2, we have an extra hit for each poison debuff on the target, up to 3 extra hits. And on the A1, we have the increasing the duration of all poison debuffs on the target with a heal. Man, he is so good. Speed in all battles by 19%. He looks so cool, too. He's designed by somebody from the community. Massive props to whoever designed him. And I actually think the raid designers did a really good job as well, kind of recreating that in the game. Next up is going to be Hegemon because of his passive. Fateful Arrival is so annoying in the arena, but I feel like everybody has some sort of an answer or just avoids Hegemon teams by this point. Always goes first each round. That leads him into his A2 ability where he can place block active skills, neutralizing your team before you even get started inside the arena. I'll probably catch a little bit of hate for this one, but Whirlum, Frost King, you guys know I'm a massive fan of this guy. After his buff, I think he's just really, really slept on. He has a freeze on his A1. He has an AoE, decreased crit damage, decreased accuracy. These debuffs cannot be resisted. Great. We have increased damage in all allies as well on a 3-turn. And then we have strengthen and increased defense, both the big versions, both are all on a 3-turn cooldown. Also one of the best defensive aura leads for Doom Tower, 40% ally defense increase. That is really, really good. So here we go. Next up is going to be Miscreated Monster. Frank did make the list, guys. He has a stun on his A1. He has a great AoE shield with a stun chance on his A2 ability. This shield is fantastic. But this shield is what Hillier's shield should be like. It feels like we talked about him, what, 3 hours ago? And then we have Fear on the attack. He has Ally Protect here, and then places in a continuous heal on himself. And then a Fear on the attacker whenever they attack somebody under an ally protection buff. Really big fan of Miscreated Monster. He was my intro kind of animation or whatever for a while here on the channel. Some of you longtime viewers might remember that. Next up we have Rector Droth. Rector. I love this champion. She's really good. Very fast, 109 base speed. She got this passive. Whenever an ally under a Veil or Perfect Veil gets a turn, heals them by 10% of their max HP. Also increases the resistance of all allies under Veil and Perfect Veil by 50. And then she has a Revival with a Perfect Veil on her A3. And then she has another heal on a 4-turn cooldown. After healing, she's placing a Perfect Veil on all champions with full HP, continuous heal on all other allies. So Perfect Veil is 15% damage mitigation as well, so there's a lot in her kit here. She also has a decreased attack on her A1. Force Affinity, you love to see it. Skull Crown also makes the list. I mean, she's just still the OG queen of kind of a little bit of control if you want to put her in a stun set. Quintessential blender comp champion. She's a good nuker, 2 strong AoEs. She's got the annoying unkillable, which makes her one of the most desired nukers for the arena. And she has speed in arena battles by 23%. Skull Crown, of course, makes the list. Next up, we have our dwarves. Final 2 factions here, guys. Dwarves. Trunda, Guilt Mallet. Man, she's just the queen of damage and the queen of nukes, right? Hard-hitting A1, hard-hitting A2. I want to say this is the best damage, I think a 6 attack multiplier on this A2 ability. And then Forge Rhythm, an AoE attack that absolutely smacks 2-time hitter if she's not placing an HP burn. So most people build her, for the arena at least, with low accuracy. So she's landing 2 hits instead and just wiping out and killing all of the enemies. Really can't say enough good things about Trunda. Just a great nuker out there in the game. Great damage dealer. Underpriest Brogni, of course, is going to be on the list. He's got the Grow Shield ability, increased value of shield buffs, a chance of removing a random buff from all enemies. We have block debuffs, we have increased attack, we get shield, and the shield can't be removed as well. Wow. As if it can't get better, it does. It gets better. One of the better fusions out there of all time. I think that Brogni and Helikath might be the best fusions of all time. I might be forgetting somebody. I'm sure I am. Cernick was good, but I don't put him as high as these guys. Whenever an ally under shield is attacked, reflects 25% of that damage inflicted on the shield back to the attacker. Also heals that ally by 25% of the damage that was inflicted on the shield. What? Wow, great champion. All right, Herndig. Herndig makes the list. He has decreased defense, decreased accuracy on an AoE on a 3-turn cooldown. It smacks, hits hard. And then Stasis Strikes attacks one enemy, fully depletes the target's turn meter, will attack all enemies if the first attack is critical. We have a chance of placing a Weaken and an HP burn on enemies who have turn meter below 30%. It's a mouthful, but boy, what a great ability here. And then fills the champion's turn meter by 10% for every time they are hit. Also fills the champion's turn meter, also fills the champion's turn meter by 20% whenever an ally dies. Kind of a really cool passive to add to an already very effective kit. Next up is going to be Molly Tankard. Molly's fast. She's got a lot of defense. She's a reviver, single target revive. And then she has a chance of placing a 2-turn provoke on a 3-turn cooldown. Place a provoke on all enemies for 1 turn. 50% chance of placing it for 2 turns. Instead, reflect damage on this champion for 2 turns. Very good for the arena. And check out this Rowdy Crowd passive. Woo, nasty passive here. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% when this champion is hit. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 25% when this champion is hit by a boss. On a 1-turn cooldown passive. Okay. Wow, Molly Tankard is the real deal. That passive is so good. Tormund the Cold. AoE on the A1 with a freeze chance. Removes all buffs from a target enemy, then attacks them, steals the buffs instead if they're under freeze. On the AoE on the A3 with block buffs. And 100% heal reduction on enemies under freeze. Also has this passive, guys, that places a freeze. Well, really, anytime any enemy does anything, right? When they're receiving buffs, when they get their turn meter filled, when they take a turn. Really, really effective champion, especially for the arena. Revives this champion with 100% HP when killed and places a freeze debuff on this champion for 1 turn on this Wintry Wind passive. It is on a 6-turn cooldown. So, very effective champion. Also has defense in all battles by 33%, so a fantastic defensive aura. Great for faction wars, great for arena. You can really use him anywhere if you're lucky enough to pull him kind of earlier in the game, as I did on my free-to-play account. All right, next up is going to be, do we have any? Did I put any? Of course, Geomancer. So Geo, of course he makes the list. We got decreased accuracy on the A1. We get remove all buffs and attacks them. Steals all buffs instead on targets under HP burn debuffs placed by this champion. On the A3, fully depletes target's turn meter. Fills this champion's turn meter the amount the target loses. We get an HP burn and a weaken for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. And then the Stone Guard is what puts it all together, right? Mixes it all together into this amazing, amazing passive. Decrease the damage all allies receive by 15% and deflects that damage onto each enemy under an HP burn debuff placed by this champion. 30% whenever he's attacked. When deflecting damage on each hit, 30% chance of dealing additional damage equal to 3% of the target's max HP. Whoa. Can deal a ton of damage. Has a very versatile kit. Remember, the AoE would decrease accuracy as well on the A1. Here we go, the last faction, guys, the home stretch. I took Gentoro off the list. He was originally on the list, and I'm tempted to put him right back on there. I really like Gentoro, but whatever. I want to keep it to 100. Lady Kimmy, fast, great stats. Just an amazing champion. She has some control with turn meter on the A1. On the A2, an AoE would decrease accuracy, decrease speed, also decrease target's turn meter. It's on a 3-turn cooldown on a flurry of petals. So we get decreased accuracy, decreased speed, decreased turn meter. On the A3, we get the opposite. Remove a random buff from each enemy. Then we have a block buffs on all enemies. So block buffs as well in her kit on a 4-turn cooldown. And then we fill turn meter of all allies by 15%. Place a big version of increased accuracy and increased speed on all allies for 2 turns. What? Whenever the champion places a debuff on an enemy, also decreases that enemy's turn meter by 5% for each debuff placed. Whenever the champion or an ally receives a debuff, fills their turn meter by 5% for each debuff received. Wow. Lady Kimmy is so freaking good. Now, guys, Ninja, obviously. What else do I have to say about Ninja? Hailburn is the best boss damage dealing ability single target in the game. Well, 3 times at random in the game. Instant activation of HP burns. He's right up there with Sissia Flametongue when we talk about sheer raw damage on this HP burn activation. Also an AoE freeze. Don't need to spend too much more time going over Ninja. Decreased defense on his A1 as well, big version. Just a really, really effective, tremendous champion in the game. This guy grew on me, man. I think it was YST, Raid Shadow Legends YouTuber, great YouTuber, who talked me into Genzin. I think it was him. But Genzin, man, this guy's really cool. Really cool. I slept on him for a while. I actually ranked him as, you know, I forget what I said, a guy who needs a buff or something at one point, but he's a 3-time hitter on the A1. Each time this champion's turn meter, each hit fills the champion's turn meter by 6%. So I get 18% turn meter fill on the A1. On the A2, we have an AoE decreased defense. Each critical hit, again, fills the champion's turn meter by 10% now. So depending on how many enemies are alive on a 3-turn cooldown, more turn meter fill with a decreased defense. Attack 1 enemy, ignore unkillable, ignore shield buffs, right? 3-turn cooldown again. She fills his turn meter by 30%, 60% instead if the target has 50% HP or less after the attack. Also, if you kill the enemy, you decrease the cooldown of Steel Parting and Fated Vengeance by 1 turn. So this ability and the A2. All of this together just makes him like the Energizer Bunny, man. He just keeps going and going and going. All this turn meter fill. Increases champion's speed by 10%, resistance by 50, if the number of champions on this champion's team is equal to or lower than the number of enemies on the enemy team. This effect always works when fighting against bosses. Not bad, right? Not bad. Always against bosses, we get extra speed and resist just built into this champion's kit. So I don't feel bad about including him. What do you guys think? Kyoku, dude, she is a tank She's a monster tank. On the A1, we have attack one enemy with 3 extra hits if the target is under 3 or more debuffs, and the big version of Weaken. Okay, great. An AoE decreased attack after attacking has an HP burn debuff for 2 turns on all enemies that did not place a decreased attack debuff on. Okay, so we get decreased attack. If it doesn't land, we get HP burn. And then on the A3, Kyoku's Horde. This is where it's at. Ally Protect buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Then places a block damage buff on this champion for 3 turns. And then grants an extra turn. This is on a 4-turn cooldown. So, I mean, I don't need to tell you guys, 4-turn cooldown, grants extra turn, then it's on a 3-turn cooldown. We have Ally Protect and block damage for 3 turns. Great. And then every time this champion is hit with a critical hit, heals all allies by 15% of their max HP. Then places an increased defense on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. What a great passive. She also has defense in all battles by 30%. All right, guys, 4 more champions to go. Rio Bone Spear. She's just a great. This is how Void legendaries ought to be, guys, right? Continuous heal on the ally lowest HP for 1 turn. Continuous heal on all allies with 30% HP for 1 turn, the weak version, on the A1 ability. Great. A stun in every debuff known to man on a single target. 3-turn cooldown, stun, HP burn, decreased defense, weaken, decreased attack, decreased crit rate. It's all there. So great single target, great boss debuffer ability. And then on 3-turn cooldown when booked, we have a cleanse, we have block debuffs for 2 turns, and then we have a heal by 35% of their HP, and a further 5% for each debuff removed from them. When receiving any debuffs, instantly transfers them from this champion to the attacker on a 3-turn cooldown. Wow. Yeah, Rio Bone Spear is the real deal. Yumeko is the real deal as well. Yumeko is, I made a video about Yumeko, not many people watched it, but I pulled her, I got very lucky enough to pull her, and she is just incredible. 2-time hitter with turn meter steal on the A1. On the A2, we have a Hex. Whenever somebody fills a turn meter of an enemy under a Hex debuff placed by this champion's turn meter will be filled instead when Karado's on the same team. When he's not on the same team, whenever an enemy tries to place a debuff on either this champion or an ally, has a 55% chance of transferring those debuffs to a random enemy under a Hex debuff. At first, I was like, okay, pretty cool, but, you know, whatever on the ability. But now, after I have her, I realize how effective this is. Think about it this way. When Bommel attacks everybody and places 100 bombs on my team, it's deflecting those bombs right back on Bommel. Bombs deal more damage on Bommel, so she can, she has been my cheat code to easily and quickly killing Bommel. She also has Dance of Time, which makes her one of the better arena champions out there in the game. It's kind of like a Kaimar mixed with a Warlord. Decrease the cooldown of all ally skills by 3 turns. Increase the cooldown of all enemy skills by 3 turns. Plays a Perfect Veil on this champion for 2 turns at the start of each round. This champion is immune to all debuffs if they're under a Veil or Perfect Veil. Whenever a Veil or Perfect Veil buff is placed on it, well, you can read that. So a Karado champion tandem ability. So, wow, that was a lot, but boy, is she great. All right, next up, I lied. I only had 3 left. The last champion on the list, guys, the 100 best champion in no particular order, is going to be Taraghi the Frog. The Frogman, guys, the Frog. I love Taraghi the Frog. Got a lot of HP. He's got decreased attack on his A1. He's at AoE provoke on his A2. On his A3, has a shield and ally protection on a 3-turn cooldown. Also heals himself, places a reflect damage buff on them, heals a champion by 20% and places a 30 on them. Why does he say them instead of him? All right, placing a reflect damage on himself, and the heal increases for each poison on the enemy team, and that's a handy little extra sentence there because he has poison on his Toxic Blood passive, a la Urosa Soul Cage we talked about earlier. Instead of a 75% chance, we get a 50% chance of placing a big version of poison debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. Occurs once per hit when he's attacked. Wow! What a great champion. You can really use him anywhere, but great for clan boss especially. Guys, there it is. There it is. Only took me about an hour and a half, but we covered the top 100 champions in Raid Shadow Legends. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way till the end. Massive props to any of you who watched the entire video straight up and without going in double time or time and a half speed too. But either way, I don't care. It still counts as a view. Guys, I appreciate you. Thank you. And as always, take care, guys.